The Manhattan Project and atomic bombs. 210,000 civilians killed in one go. How? Through the Manhattan Project, the secret program that built the world's first atomic bombs, leading Japan to finally surrender and ending World War II. But how did this terrifying weapon come to exist, and how did it change the world forever? It all began in 1939 when physicists Leo Szilard and Albert Einstein feared that Nazi Germany might be working on an atomic bomb. They wrote a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning him of this danger and urging the US to act fast. This letter set in motion the creation of the top-secret Manhattan Project, a massive effort to build a nuclear weapon before the Axis powers could. By 1942, the US was fully committed. Billions of dollars were poured into the project, and secret facilities were built all across the country. The project was led by General Leslie Groves and Chief Scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer. Thousands of scientists, engineers, and military workers joined in, all racing against time and working in total secrecy. But where did all this happen? The Manhattan Project wasn't just in one place. It was spread out across several massive sites. In Los Alamos, New Mexico, scientists designed and assembled the bombs. In Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Hanford, Washington, workers focused on producing the crucial materials, uranium and plutonium. The project was so secretive that many workers didn't even know what they were working on. The science behind the bomb was just as intense. Scientists figured out that splitting atoms of uranium or plutonium in a chain reaction could release an unimaginable amount of energy, enough to create an explosion like nothing the world had ever seen. After years of intense work, they were finally ready to test their creation. On July 16, 1945, the first successful atomic bomb test, codenamed Trinity, was carried out in New Mexico desert. The blast was so powerful that the flash could be seen over 250 miles away, and the mushroom cloud rose more than 7.5 miles to the sky. Meanwhile, the war in the Pacific was still dragging on. After President Roosevelt's death, Harry Truman became president and was faced with major decisions. Japan refused to surrender, and a US invasion could cost hundreds of thousands of American lives. But now the US had a new weapon, and they decided to use it. On August 6, 1945, at 8:15 a.m., the US dropped the first atomic bomb, Little Boy, on Hiroshima. The bomb exploded 1,900 feet above the city, instantly killing around 80,000 people. Tens of thousands more were left injured, burned, or suffering from deadly radiation sicknesses. And just 3 days later, on August 9th, a second bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. This bomb killed about 40,000 people instantly, and many more died from the aftermath. Survivors, called hibakusha, would go on to suffer from radiation-related illnesses for decades. Finally, on August 15, 1945, Japan announced its surrender, officially ending World War II. But even though the bombs ended the war, the decision to use them remains one of the most debated choices in history. Some argue that the bombing saved millions of lives by avoiding a long, brutal invasion of Japan. Others believe Japan was already close to surrendering, and that the use of bombs was more about intimidating the Soviet Union.
That our country's use of the bomb was necessary.
I believe that the view, which I learned from many, but above all from General Marshall and from Colonel Stimson, the Secretary of War, the view that they had, that we would have to fight our way to the main islands, and that it would involve a slaughter of Americans and Japanese on a massive scale, was arrived at by them in good faith, with regret, and on the best evidence that they then had. To that alternative, I think the bomb was an enormous relief. The war had started in 1939. It had seen the death of tens of millions. It had seen brutality and degradation, which had no place in the middle of the 20th century. And the ending of the war by this means was certainly cruel, was not undertaken lightly. But I am not, as of today,
The Manhattan Project didn't just end World War II, it changed the whole world. It sparked a Cold War arms race, as the Soviet Union rushed to develop its own nuclear weapons. By 1949, the world had entered a dangerous new era, where nuclear war could threaten entire civilizations. To this day, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki remain the only times nuclear weapons had ever been used in war. But with thousands of nuclear warheads still in existence, we're left with an unsettling question. Could nuclear weapons ever be used again? The world is still waiting for the answer.